All right, and bam! Through the miracles of technology, it's done. So that's it. That's all wired up, ready to go. I need to get an argon tank filled so I can actually use this thing because my other one's hooked up to my main welder, and I have no plans on unhooking that to hook this up. But we'll get that thing probably filled tomorrow before I have to go to school, and plumb it into this thing and see how it does. So that was easy. I talked over the wiring, how you do it to wire up the machine, and lots of these welders come without an end on it. That's not uncommon at all. So just be ready for that. So I just want to do a quick little look over some basic wiring. Now, you know, this isn't for you to go out and do yourself if you're not qualified and all that good stuff. Full disclaimer, if you're messing with electrical wires, you will die. You'll die. For real though, you'll die. So, check this out. And this is what the electrical box looks like. This is just your regular, well, this one isn't really regular actually. This is just a 60 amp that I had plumbed in to my workshop. So your home one, usually there's a big switch up here, up at the top. That'll be like your main breaker. What you want to do is you want to make sure before you're working with any of these is to make sure there's nothing on. So it's not live. And you do that with the multimeter. And if you don't know how to use a multimeter, then of course you're going to hire someone to do this anyway. But basically how the single phase systems work is there's two bars that will come in these boxes. And you'll see on the top here there's two wires. Let me grab something to point with. Something preferably non-metallic. Oh, like a wooden hammerhead. So we got these two guys right here. Each one of those is 110 volts, and they're running. They're alternating. It's the alternating part of the alternating current. So they're bringing in current that alternates. So basically, think of like a two-piston engine. One's pumping, and the other one's pulling back. And the one's pumping, the other one's pulling back. That's how this works. So your breakers will tie into one of those bars. As these two bars go down, they kind of zigzag back and forth, and you really can't see very well because I got all mine eaten up. But what happens is this will be on this side, this will be on the other side, this will be on this side, this will be on the other side, and that's how you get that alternating current. So when you got a 220 amp breaker, and all these are specific to the breaker boxes, you'll see. This is a type HOM, home. So that's a home, and they're specific to the boxes. You match your wire with your breaker, and the breaker with what you need to do. So if you want to run something big, you need a big breaker like a 50 amp, which is what I have most of my stuff ran off of throughout my garage. But a breaker would go in and it'd pull 110 and 110, and they'd alternate, which are those two hot wires that we talked about, the red and the black, and that makes your 220. And then you got an earth bar and a ground bar, and that's about it. So that's how the wiring works for 220. So then last thing we wanted to do was talk about the actual cost involved of setting this up. So I made a little chart. So I used my my GFI list whiteboard, which stands for Good Freaking Ideas, and I just kind of run down what we got here. So you got the actual TIG machine. It was 350, and then we got the foot pedal. That's optional because the actual torch has a switch on it. I'm not really sure how it works just yet, but we'll figure that out. But I think it's $50 well spent. Argon. So I called up my local air gas store, whom I want to hate, but they were actually super helpful. And the guy says, hey, we got these, like, I think they were 120 cubic foot tanks. here, you either have to have an account to rent the tanks, or you have to buy the tanks. And they said to buy a tank was going to be $305. He said refills was $75. He said, however, if you own a tank, and he says, you know, you're not getting this from us, obviously, but if you own a tank, then, you know, it's just the refill. And he said, you know, check out your local Craigslist, and, you know, just make sure it's an argon tank, and then check for a DOT. So he said that has to be stamped, a DOT stamp on the tank itself, and it should be hydro tested. So I want to say the hydro test is within, it's either something like 8 years or 10 years, and I'm not 100% on that, but he said to get a rehydro tested was only about $35, as long as it had that DOT stamp on it, and the bottle itself wasn't didn't have like arc strikes or any kind of damage on it. Then they just take it in and they swap it out. Once you're in the system, then you can just yeah, you know, they don't actually fill your bottle, you just take it there and they just exchange it. So that's what I would do. I would look for, you know, Facebook ads or Craigslist or whatever, and see if I could get a tank. I use big 300s, the big massive ones, and I rent those from the place because they won't sell them to me, and they cost me like $20 a month, and I have 3 of them because I have 2 argons and then one 75-25 mix for my MIG welder. So I pay like $45 a month, which is a great scam for them. And then I get them filled, you know, each bottle probably once a month. So each time I fill it, I think for the big 300 cubic inches are around $100, but it varies from place to place. Like you know, when I moved around, I was in the military. Each little place had their own nuance of how you do that, even though it'd be the same store or whatever. So power cord was $25. The gas lens kit. So I looked up Jody's just stubby gas lens kit for just the 332nd, and it was $40. You could get cheaper. You could get away cheaper with just like a regular cullet, or buying some eBay Chinese stuff. But like I said earlier, I think that those parts are worth spending the extra money for. When I made my list originally, I forgot regulator, so I pinned it up there because you got to have an argon regulator. This kit didn't come with it. They're $30. Filler rods. So if you're gonna start, I would say that 045 would be a great wire to start with, because you have to feed a little bit more, which forces you to learn how to feed. But it melts a little easier, and I like that. I like to make sure that my base material is going to melt, and I'm not going to have to wait for my filler to melt. And what I mean by that is, so if I'm welding, let's say I'm welding 045 wall, you know, tube, and my filler is 1/16, which is like 065. I might actually need a little more heat to melt my filler than my base metal, which makes kind of for an odd thing when you're trying to and it pulls a lot of heat out. I like 045. Go with 045. You can't go wrong. So you got to have one of each if you're going to do stainless. If you're going to do stainless steel, and they're like $24 and $20. And then the tungsten, I'd say just go ahead and get the thoriated. The 332nd, they come, it's $18 per 10 pack, and like I said earlier, they're 7 inches long. So that is a grand total of $862 to be able to, and that doesn't include the wiring. So I left that out of there, and you know, that's something you'll have to figure in with your electrician or whatever. I can tell you that electrical wire itself is it's pretty pricey. I bought a roll of, I want to say 8 gauge. It's either 8 or 6, I can't remember. But it was really thick stuff, because, you know, better to have thicker wires. Thinner wires will create problems. You always want to have heavier wires than what you need. But that was like $300 for, I want to say like a 50-foot roll, which is a lot, but that stuff, it can cost a lot. And, you know, the heads actually themselves are like $15, $25 or whatever. But that's another cost you got to figure in, or whatever you want to pay an electrician. So price total without the electricity, you're looking at $862 for the cheap $350 eBay machine. So those prices don't go away with a more expensive machine, although you might get a regulator with the machine. That's just the way it works. So anyway, I'm going to string this together and post it up, and I hope you guys appreciate it. I hope you guys gain some knowledge out of this, and next time we do another TIG series, it should be actually putting beads down if everything goes well. So thanks.